So when we look on this political spectrum, we have what we often refer to as left-wing ideologies and right-wing ideologies. Socialism is a left-wing ideology. Its emphasis is based on change and more government involvement. Today, when we think of modern democratic socialism, it usually means that there's a strong safety net, that the basic cares of people are taken care of in a strong way. We think of maybe a Swedish style of this. And that could possibly mean that you have free education at the university level, and you have free health care. The government might own certain industries, critical industries, or critical transportation networks. For example, they might own a national airline. They might run the trains. They might own, resources, if they have oil or coal or something like this. So that's a general version of socialism, left of center. A radical version of socialism, it comes in the form of Marxism, and we called this, Marx called it scientific socialism. And let me kind of give you the differences between these two. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, his partner, wrote one of the most influential books of the last 200 years. And it's really more like, it's not very long, it's a pamphlet really in many ways. And it's called the Communist Manifesto. Communist Manifesto was written in 1848. It was written during the height of worker conditions being at their lowest. And much of the Communist Manifesto deals with the workers and the factory owners. And Marx approaches this type of socialism with the belief that history has stages, and according to his research, he had figured out the stages of history, and his version of socialism, scientific socialism, he believed would be the last stage of history, and it would correct certain wrongs that had happened in the past. According to Marx, there were these distinct stages. There was a stage where you had slave owners and slaves, and so you had basically a dichotomy in society where you always have those in charge and oppressing other members of society, and you have a slave and a slave owner. This then he talks about how was changed to eventually to a feudal system where you have the lord and the serf, which again is this power relationship. He then believes that the next stage was a liberal bourgeois stage, bourgeois meaning middle class. So when he sees this Enlightenment ideas of democracy and freedom and such applied, and he looks at it on the landscape of the U.S. or Germany or Great Britain, he views this as a stage of history that is going to fall away. And this stage he characterizes now as the new power relationship he considered was the factory owner and the factory worker. And it's a stage, again, of oppressed, the factory worker, and oppressor, the factory owner. And he envisioned there to be a society, the next stage would remove these differences in society, and there would be equality for all, finally. And the people at the bottom he called the proletariat, the workers, and the people on the top he called the bourgeois, the owners, those with wealth and money and power in society. He said democracy fooled the people into believing that they had power to make decisions in society, but in reality it was the elite and the wealthy who still controlled society. And Marx had also more radical components to this. Marx felt that certain things, for this new society to come about, it would have to come from a rebellion from below. It would have to have workers would have to raise their fists, raise their arms in a war, a class war against the owners, the factory owners, the bourgeoisie. And he envisioned this great struggle where this would happen, and he thought it would happen in the industrialized West first. He thought it would happen in Germany or Britain, where Industrialization had reached a certain level and for this to be toppled, you need to have a strong working class. When communism or Marxism is supposedly applied under the Russians in 1917, it's a strange situation for many Marxist socialists because they believe that you need to be this industrialized society, this very strongly industrialized society. That's not the case in Russia at that time period. It was a peasant agriculturally based society. So we'll talk about how that kind of changes. But for Marx, this is what he believes in the 1840s. We're going to have this society in which is toppled. Eventually you'd have equality. So equality in terms of not just equality before the law, which is what we guarantee in the U.S. Constitution, but a system in which you'd have economic equality. So there would not be differences between rich and poor. That would finally pass away in this next stage of scientific socialism, again according to Marx. And this is how he saw the progression of history. And these were stages that were inevitable, that all societies would have to go through, and that all societies would eventually culminate in this future stage. Part of that, Marx believed in this economic equality. He also believed that religion would have to be removed, that religion was a way to control the masses. It's another way of oppressing the masses. He believed that property was not a natural right or a God-given right, that private property should be eliminated, that there shouldn't be great land-holding estates by the rich and such, that property would be held in a communal sense, and of course you'd have some of your personal items, your clothes and such like this. Marx doesn't get into this very much, but he envisions this world in which there aren't the rich and poor. So he feels property is a key element. So property would be held by all. It would be communal. There wouldn't be religion. There would be a system in which all businesses are therefore owned communally as well, and business decisions would be made by the community. So you don't have business owners and factory workers. And he sees, again, that the factory workers would then become in charge of this new world, and he called it the dictatorship of the proletariat would come and solve the problems of the workers and the horrible conditions that the workers were living in the 19th century. So that's Marxism in a nutshell. It's going to be applied, however, by various individuals throughout the 20th century, especially in Europe. And what Marx envisions and what happens are two completely different things. And this, you could say the same thing for democracy as well, as what Locke envisions in the 17th century, or Montesquieu and Voltaire. They're the ideals of what they believe in democracy should be. And what is the reality, even our own democracy, is something different. But it's going to have great influence on people when they have nothing. And when the mass people are in horrible conditions, they're going to be looking for radical solutions. Some will look left. Some will look left to this radical solutions of the socialists, and some are going to look to the far right. And that's going to be some other ideas that are going to come about in the 20th century, such as fascism. And it's kind of like a combination of old world ideas of a strong leader from the top. Remember, we don't have the monarch now in control. So some people are looking for another way to find a strong leader who can make changes quickly. And this is the appeal of both of these groups. Both promise quick changes, and when Europe goes into a deep economic depression, people want quick solutions. Of course, this is what they want. They want someone to solve their personal suffering. And we're going to be talking about these other appealing views as well.